Tief im Innern der Materie, da verbirgt sich eine rätselhafte Welt,
deep within the matter there's a secret world of quanta, and there are many laws very difficult to understand. There are particles, there can also be waves, there can be superpositions, they can be connected. Experts from Jülich are researching these secrets in order to make best use of all these properties in order to find new ways for computing using quanta. They also wish to use existing quantum computers to find solutions to real-world problems.
Am Forschungszentrum, das ist die Jülich UNified Infrastructure.
The Jülich UNified Infrastructure Quantum Computing Infrastructure JUNIQ has been established, and what is unique is the farm of machinery with all sorts of different systems of different maturity, and also enabling remote access to different quantum systems. Today it is time for a new chapter, and we will start up a new quantum system, a quantum annealer, an advantage quantum annealer commissioned by D-Wave from Canada, and D-Wave is a pioneer in supplying quantum computers. It uses more than 5,000 qubits in parallel. Thus, it is perfectly suited to optimize research tasks, but also commercial applications in North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany, and Europe. In the afternoon, we will hear more about possible applications. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to today's event at the Jülich Supercomputing Centre with acquired immunity through vaccination or infection. I also wish to extend a warm welcome to everybody following our live stream. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, feel free to use the chat to ask your questions, and we will get to your questions later on. My name is Arndt Reuning. I'm also a journalist with a research focus, and I will be facilitating today's event. First, I'd like to point out that for our guests on site can listen to the German translation on channel 1 and the English translation on English 2. So if you switch to English 2, you will now be listening to the interpreters, interpreting from German into English. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Professor Lambrecht. She's member of the board at the research area 1 and will now present or fill in for Professor Marquardt. Professor Marquardt would have liked to be with us. He is very sorry that he couldn't make it, but unfortunately he is a contact of a confirmed COVID case. Thus, he needs to wait for the result of his PCR test. So he wanted to make sure that he does not pose a risk to anyone. Thus, we are very delighted to welcome Professor Lambrecht.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you very much.
Sehr geehrte Frau Bundesministerin
Ms.
Stark-Watzinger,
Stark-Watzinger, Federal Minister of Education and Research, Mr. Wüst, State Premier of North Rhine-Westphalia, Ms. Gabriel, EU Commissioner for Innovation and Research,
meine sehr
Mr.
verehrten
Dion,
Damen
Mr. Baratz, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the Forschungszentrum Jülich, here on site and digitally, and I'm very pleased that you are joining us today in taking a very important and forward-looking step. Today we will commission the world's first D-Wave Advantage system outside the headquarters of the manufacturer D-Wave. It's a quantum annealer of the latest generation. We are continuing the long tradition of Forschungszentrum Jülich, or doing pioneering work in this field. When the Jülich researcher and later Nobel Prize winner Peter Greenberg discovered the GMR effect at the end of the 80s, it was not yet foreseeable that a decade later this technology would be used as the technological basis in modern hard drives of each and every computer.
Erleben wir wieder den Aufbruch.
Similar to the 40s with classical transistor-based computing, we are once again experiencing the dawn of a new technological age. Through the use of a quantum computer annealer, it will hold revolutionary technical possibilities in store for all of us. Today's commissioning of this quantum annealer is very powerful and works best with these supercomputers, and this is what we do at Jülich using JUNIQ with our infrastructure. The D-Wave system is globally the first quantum computer that will link to the supercomputer. This unique link helps us to harness the best of both worlds, and we can challenge it and pose challenging tasks. We will gather experiences that can then be used to further develop quantum hardware and software.
Mit diesem Ziel haben wir bereits 2017 die Initiative.
In 2017, we started this initiative, and it is precisely of this purpose that we have already created JUNIQ in 2019, a user infrastructure for quantum computing that allows researchers from Germany and Europe cloud-based access to various quantum systems.
Die Bereitstellung der Ressourcen flankieren
to offer resources will be flanked with skillful support for all users when it comes to formulating problems and also developing software. JUNIQ offers us a comprehensive option to find new ways for application without being tied up to just one platform. JUNIQ is a central cornerstone of our alliance that has made us to a hotspot in the development of quantum computers. In this unique ecosystem, leading pioneers of quantum physicists, material scientists, computer engineers, but also experts in simulation, see a great technical infrastructure for demonstration and application of quantum computing. We are convinced that by extending quantum computing here in Jülich, we have prepared an excellence center for Germany and Europe.
Die Forschung zum Quantencomputing
Research on quantum computing time and again works on the principles of basic research. On the one hand, gathering experiences, further developing technology, and also seeing new ways of adding new value. And this again is an important benefit for Germany's and Europe's research community. We are grateful to receive support by the federal and state governments, and that today we have the chance to commission D-Wave's quantum annealer.
Mein Dank gilt nicht nur unseren Gesellschaftern, sondern auch
I'd like to thank our sponsors, but also D-Wave. In connection with the Jülich Supercomputing Centre, they have realized this project. And I'm very much looking forward that in a moment together we will press the launch button.
nachfolgenden Rednerinnen und Rednern danke ich ganz herzlich.
Again, I'd like to thank all speakers for today's contributions. And I'm very much looking forward to listening to you. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank, Frau
Thank
Professor.
you very much, Professor Lamprecht.
Der D-Wave Advantage Quanten Annealer, den wir heute in
D-Wave
Betrieb nehmen,
Advantage
das erste Modell
Quantum
seiner
annealer
Art,
is
das
the
außerhalb
first
von
model
Amerika
that is operating
Deutschland und
outside
dadurch eine
the
ganz
Canadian
herausragende
headquarters.
Rolle
This
bei
means
dieser
Germany
neuartigen
is
Technologie.
well
Bei der
placed
Verwirklichung
and
des neuen
plays an
Systems
important role.
beteiligt war das BMBF.
The
Ich freue mich daher,
Ministry
die
for Education and Research has also been involved, and I'm now
online
welcoming the Federal Minister of Education and Research.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much.
Sehr geehrte Frau Kommissarin Gabriel,
Commissioner
sehr geehrter
Gabriel,
Ministerpräsident Wüst, sehr geehrte Frau
Mr.
Professorin
Wüst,
Lamprecht in Vertretung
Professor
von
Lamprecht,
Herrn Professor Marquardt,
on behalf
meine
of
Damen und
Professor
Herren.
Marquardt,
Ein
ladies and
Grundstein
gentlemen,
legen, ein Gebäude
breaking
einweihen,
ground,
eine Anlage
inaugurating a
in Betrieb
building,
nehmen, das ist
putting a
immer
plant
ein
into
erster
operation,
Schritt. Da
these are
beginnt
always
etwas
beautiful
Neues.
things,
Und normalerweise
opening
kommen
a new
Menschen
chapter.
zusammen, feiern den Moment
On these
aus
occasions,
sich
people
aus.
used to come
Das werden wir
together
heute auch
and celebrate the
tun,
moment,
gerade
exchange
jetzt
ideas. I would have
wenige
loved
Wochen
that
nach
too,
meinem Start
especially
als
now, a few weeks
Ministerpräsidentin
after my taking the office as Minister of Education and Research.
an.
But I'm raising my
Deswegen das
glass with
Wichtigste
you
zuerst.
virtually today.
Herzlichen
So,
Glückwunsch
first
zur
and foremost,
Inbetriebnahme des
congratulations on the
Quantum
commissioning
Annealers.
of the
Und vor
quantum
allen Dingen vielen
annealer.
Dank an alle, die
And
mitgewirkt
I extend
haben.
my gratitude to
Sie
all
bereiten
who
den
have
Fortschritt
contributed.
einen Weg.
You are paving the way for
Es ist eben schon
progress.
angesprochen worden, dunkle Materie,
Dark matter,
Higgs-Teilchen,
Higgs
Quanten.
particles,
All diese
quanta.
Begriffe hätten zu Zeiten des
In the days
Mathematikers
of
Carl
Carl
Friedrich
Friedrich
Gauss
Gauss, people would have probably just shrugged at all these terms. Nevertheless, the intention with which Gauss conducted his scientific work 200 years ago still fits today. And I quote, "One must not confuse what seems improbable and unnatural with what is absolutely impossible. Quantum physics is such a domain of science, difficult to grasp for many, beyond intuition, and yet it is central to our lives." Almost everyone knows the word quantum leap, and I know that physicists don't like to hear the term so much. They rather speak of a transition. But if we look at what quantum technologies make possible, then the term, as we use it in everyday language, is fitting. Quantum technologies can provide a great leap forward in model calculations for climate research, in encrypted communication, planning traffic flows in real time, developing new materials for battery or active pharmaceutical ingredients, in the analysis of complex processes in financial markets. This extends to quantum sensor technology for neuroscience. Something can and will change noticeably for all of us, especially through quantum computers. Here we are on the threshold of a new chapter of progress with quantum technologies as our key. Many places in the world are betting on it. The competition for the best concepts for real-life applications has long since begun. That means we have to position ourselves very well if we want to be at the forefront, if we want to be the leaders, we as Germans, but also we as Europeans. Because it should be clear to all of us, today no one can get ahead on their own. Hence, the federal government's coalition agreement claims, and I quote again, "We will be the drivers of a technology-based location on European values, attracting talent and securing a viable and prosperous future for our country." The governing parties have explicitly set their sights on promising technologies such as quantum mechanics. Together with our European partners, we will drive progress. Our goal is to take a leading role in the world and to secure technological sovereignty in the long term. In its roadmap, the Expert Council on Quantum Computing concludes that we need to strengthen the entire system for quantum computing in our country and do so in the short term. That means in the next 5 years or so. As we've seen in the video, the providers of such systems today primarily come from North America, closely followed by China. Unlike the Far East, our initiative is based on freedom and competition. We guarantee access to existing systems for researchers and for users respectively. In the future, hardware and software must also come from Germany and the EU. That is why our ministry is currently providing 450 million euros for the development of quantum processors and quantum computers and their applications. Quantum annealers are added as an extra bonus, and that too is a first start. Forschungszentrum Jülich wants to build a leading developer and user community from science and industry to the end that quantum computers become a reality in our country, and this is a beginning of a new era. Let's be honest about this. Germany and Europe need to catch up in quantum computing, but we also know the race has only just begun. We are well positioned, we have strong scientific communities, we have efficient companies. We can keep up. Progress should shape the next few years. That is the federal government's goal. The basis is a strong research landscape. We want to give it a new impetus, and that's another reason why I speak of the federal ministry as the Ministry of Opportunities. What is the direction of this commitment? We enable companies to network even more closely with the scientific community. We continue to expand our research infrastructure. We are very interested in spin-offs so that smart ideas quickly become good practice. Hence, there will be the enterprise zones. We want to set them up following the British model with proper funding, ultra-fast internet and little bureaucracy. We are establishing a German agency for innovation and transfer to get even more ideas off the shelves of universities and research institutions, translating them to real life application. Innovations belong in everyday life. We will pool research funding into missions and measure them against international benchmarks. It goes without saying that quantum technologies are among the focus areas. Our ministry is currently developing a new funding program for quantum systems, and the next few months and years will be exciting. And the next few years, as I said, will be exciting. I'm looking forward to it, especially on a day like this. We are taking a step forward, and that is the basis for taking many next steps. The quantum annealer offers good prospects. I briefly touched on the benefits of quantum technologies for all of us at the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, you who are working on this could explain much better what is behind it all and what could come out of it in the end. I said could because it is always open what a new technology will bring. Armin Grunwald, professor of philosophy of technology, once said, "A forecast about the benefits of technology only says something about us today, about our current state of knowledge, but little or nothing about the future." What I'm getting at is communicating about your work and its practical relevance. The board of directors of Forschungszentrum Jülich was once the driving force behind the Science in Dialogue initiative. That was under Professor Joachim Treusch. I am grateful to all who are committed to communicating science and who continue to communicate across the board, who spark interest in new technologies among our citizens, among fans as well as skeptics, especially when things get a little more difficult, as with quantum technologies. The sooner the ice is broken, the better for the progress we need. Thank you for listening.
Ja, vielen Dank von uns, Frau Ministerin.
Thank you so much.
Quantencomputer bilden einen wichtigen
Minister.
Baustein
Quantum
bei dem, was wir
computers
die
are
zweite
a very important
Quantenrevolution
building
nennen,
block of
wo
what
es
we
darum
call the
geht, die
second
Eigenschaft
quantum
einzelner
revolution,
Quanten zu kontrollieren,
which is
zu
about
beeinflussen,
controlling
gute Anwendungen zu nutzen.
the characteristics
Das ist eine
of
gewaltige Herausforderung, die
its
nur im internationalen
individual
Verbund
particles.
gelingen
And
kann.
that
Das
is a
gerade noch
huge
angekommen.
challenge that can only
Die Systeme, die in JUNIQ betrieben
be
werden,
realized
stehen
with the
auch
international
anderen Forscherinnen
community.
und Forschern zur Verfügung.
The systems that we have just heard about are also available to other users. That's why it is a special honor for me to welcome the EU Commissioner for Innovation, Mariya Gabriel. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, dear Minister of Education and Research, Stark-Watzinger, dear Minister President Wüst, dear Ambassador Diane, dear Jülich hosts, dear Professor Markert, dear speakers, dear research and innovation community, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, it is a pleasure for me to come back in Jülich after a very fruitful meeting back in March 2018. And what a pleasure to see so much familiar faces. Online with us, we have Professor Thomas Lippert. Professor Lippert, I learned a lot from you when I was Digital Commissioner, and I'm sure that I will continue to learn as Commissioner for Research, Innovation, Education, Culture and Youth. And in the room, I see two familiar faces. Ambassador, dear Thomas, it's a great pleasure to have you. As I said, that was a privilege at European level to have an ambassador like you, always with noble causes. And here is another one that unites us. And we have Elmar Brok, always with a strong commitment for a European leadership, but in all our member states with positive benefits for society and economy. And remember, time flows at incredible speed. In 2018, we were discussing how to strengthen European presence in the world leading high-performance computing. Today, we are gathering to talk about another important part of HPC, quantum computing, which is at the crossroads of science, technology, and leading us to invention, innovation, and impact. Yes, Europe has to reinforce its efforts to ensure a leading role in the data economy, and its digital autonomy depends on our ability to develop and master the next generation of technology, of supercomputers, of quantum. All research areas essential to find the solution for the new challenges rely on big data and on computationally intensive programs. Climate simulation, design of novel functional materials, and increased cybersecurity is just a few examples of application areas where high-capacity computers are indispensable. And yes, the race is just at the beginning. Europe wants to be a leader as technology provider and user of quantum technology and quantum computing. But to achieve this objective, Europe can rely on its leading researchers in quantum. Now we need to strengthen this wealth of scientific talent and knowledge as the basis of a thriving quantum industrial ecosystem. Being a melting pot of many fields of science and technology, the quantum world captures our imagination, in particular of young generations. And yes, here I would like to stress the dimension of education, a key pillar of my portfolio, and in particular because we are starting the European Year of Youth. We need to engage in extra efforts to communicate better science to society to gain their trust. And in the modern times we live in, we would fail if we would not manage to capture the attention of our young generations. And it is not only a question of using accessible language. It is also about the challenge of integrating better education activities with scientific rigor and excellence through innovative pedagogical experiences. We need inspiring examples like the famous and insightful Faraday lectures about the chemical history of a candle that was carefully prepared for a young audience, trying to reach out to youngsters, in particular, and then I see here girls, to address the persistent gender gap in science. It's extremely important to fuel their creativity and ensure that our future generations trust research and its values and dare to embrace the world of entrepreneurship and innovation. And Europe definitely here needs further co-investment with member states, with industry, on competencies in high-performance computing, covering advanced technologies and applications. And I think that here my message is quite strong. On one side, for sure, we have to invest in fundamental research. We are proud of our researchers. But on the other side, yes, we have to show what are the applications in order to convince our citizens that this massive investment in our bright minds, it's not only an investment for our future, it's an investment in our present. And I think that, yes, here, these strong points, especially on education and young people and competencies, that will be pushed in our next communication on strategy for universities. And I would like really to bring to your attention the importance. We are talking about high-performance computing. We are talking about quantum. But it's a fact that actually there is no European master degree in these fields. And how we'll prepare our next generation, how we'll use the extraordinary talent of the people that are in this room with us or are with us online. So I think that that will be really key. Investing in forming our talents will be key to support the critical socioeconomic transformations ahead of us, triggered by the need to ensure our planet's sustainability and modernizing our societies with more digital infrastructures and services. And yes, the European Union has been active in the field of quantum for the last 2 decades. And here it's my role as this time Commissioner for Research and Innovation. You know that we have invested together with our member states more than 500 million euros. With the maturing of quantum technologies, the Commission launched in 2018 the Quantum Technologies Flagship Initiative. By the way, at that time I was Digital Commissioner, but that was with me that this initiative was launched somehow for my future role. And now with Horizon Europe program, with the advent of Horizon Europe, we are entering into another phase of the flagship with a focus on the progress towards higher technological readiness levels, including developing the design and production capabilities of quantum chips, as well as providing dedicated quantum test and experimentation facilities. Europe already proved that it can advance with determination when working towards shared ambitious goals, and we are in the right place to send this strong signal. In the past few years, the European Union was able to launch several initiatives to bridge science and technology and translate them into innovation and cohesion, because I think that we all agree technology in itself, it's not our goal. It's for our society. It's for our next generation. And thanks to this common work, yes, the European Union has now the basis to invest in future generation of high-performance computing, offering opportunities to the wider research community across Europe. I think that we always have to keep in mind these important questions of the access of all our researchers all over Europe to what we have as best. And it is a great example of European vision as a common European endeavor that we already deployed petascale computers, and actually we are working together for the next 3 years in order really to affirm our European leadership. And of course, we count on the expertise here in Jülich Center and all you as researchers. Now, what is time? The time is coming for more ambitious steps on quantum computing and for what that we need to develop leading competitive European supply to ensure diversity and choice of quantum technologies. And as I said, the nano-quantum world is as fascinating as mind-boggling. There is another area of strategic importance for Europe related with nano-quantum properties of materials, which can dramatically innovate across greener manufacturing industries. Here we need advancements in research and innovation because they are of strategic relevance for European technological autonomy. And in this regard, I must say that I have discussed last year with European industry and research leaders to reflect on modern approaches for design and development of advanced materials in a comprehensive way. Now, I'm looking forward to receive their input to further discuss how European research and innovation actors can align along 3 axes: to establish a strategic roadmap, it's really time to have it, to launch an agile and inclusive governance for research innovation on advanced materials, and to translate it into a novel European strategic R&I agenda for the next generation of advanced materials. So let me then conclude by congratulating Jülich and all those involved in this collaboration for this key milestone that will allow Europe to host advanced quantum computing capabilities. This is for sure an important point of attraction of talents to Europe, and that was already said, but we all think about talents, and talents are everywhere, and Europe can be a home for ours and for others, because we know that in research, this international dimension is really important, because without cooperation, without building bridges, without establishing networks, we'll continue to work in silo and regularly reinvent hot water and suddenly discovering that we have a lot of expertise, but because there was a lack of network, of bridges, of cooperation, we don't advance as rapidly as new technologies. And yes, we know that new technologies are evolving extremely rapidly, and we have to adapt our own pace too. And we have a great example here, that this is a stimulus. What you are doing here, this is a stimulus for us to make more and better across the chain of knowledge. And I count on your support to raise further the interest of member states and industry to see how we can align strategies, how we can invest more and better, and ultimately, yes, to pool resources and provide incentives for fundamental research and more downstream innovation-driven activities. So I close with the reminder that we are in the European year dedicated to youth, and I count on your support to help us foster this culture of science and innovation in young generations. And the best example is what you are doing. So please continue to inspire us. And yes, count on my support. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank, Frau Kommissarin.
Thank you, Commissioner. Coal mining is a long tradition in North Rhine-Westphalia. In the coming years, we want to achieve a transition to a sustainable climate model. One of the challenges is to shape the change in this area and to keep wealth in this area. Quantum computing could play a central role in this approach. And our government in the state has supported this transition, and that's why I welcome Mr. Wüst, our state premier.
Vielen herzlichen Dank für die freundliche Begrüßung. Sehr geehrte Frau Professorin Lamprecht, sehr geehrte Frau Kommissarin Gabriel, sehr geehrte Frau Bundesministerin Stark-Watzinger,
Commissioner Gabriel,
Rachel und Litan, sehr geehrter
Ms.
Stark-Watzinger,
Stark-Watzinger, His Excellency Dion,
Vertreter von
Mayor Fuchs,
meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren.
representatives of
Ich
D-Wave,
begrüße Sie alle
ladies and gentlemen.
im Rheinischen
I
Revier.
would like to welcome you in the Rhine area, in the home of the future.
Gesagt ist,
As we heard
wesentlicher
in the
Baustein
introduction, one of the essential parts of being the home of the future is the concentration of innovations in our state. We have the brain train, and we test autonomous driving on the railway and on the road, and we research about the future of many technologies. And here today we're going the next step in quantum computing. Our generation has so much access to knowledge than no generation had ever before. We have all the opportunities to solve the big challenges of our time. We create opportunities with technologies, innovation, and North Rhine-Westphalia is one of the states with most universities in Europe. Not only universities, but also science centers, and we have made even more progress in this area in the last couple of years. And one of the beacons of this is the Forschungszentrum Jülich. Today we are starting up the quantum computer, and that is a very important step on the way of becoming a leading institution in Europe, and you are already a top institution for innovations. And with this computer, we can answer questions in so many different application areas. The innovations of today are the opportunities of tomorrow. Chances for safe jobs, and chances for wealth, and a solution for the big challenges of our time. There is no doubt, and we just heard it by the Commissioner, that the Forschungszentrum Jülich is starting a new era in quantum computing. The D-Wave system is the first quantum computer in the world that is in direct connection with a supercomputer. And that is an added value, very important added value for our industries. With this combination, a lot of areas can be optimized. Quantum computing opens the door, opens the gate to a completely new world of applications. It is a future development that we love to support as the state government. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of the quantum technology is usually something that the general public is not aware of. Its strategic reach is something that we are very aware of, though. That's why we create support for this technology. And this can only be strong support in an open democratic society when many people are convinced of the use of a technology. The Science Council has recently published a paper on science communication, and it deals with the question of how science can be communicated. We know, especially since the pandemic, that the communication between the society and politics is not always easy. And although it is not always easy to communicate highly complex technologies, people do see practical application and practical advantages of technology. Politics have to be convinced that it is worth using investments into research, and this is how they can also explain why this investment is done. For North Rhine-Westphalia, I can say that we really are delighted to support the Forschungszentrum Jülich in order to expand its quantum technology. Already today it has an unprecedented expertise, and we're very proud that North Rhine-Westphalia has become a hot spot for quantum computing, and we really want to keep expanding it. In the framework of our Digital Strategy 2.0, we will build a competence center for quantum computing in order to improve even further the network that they already have, linking them to locations in different cities in North Rhine-Westphalia, among which Bonn, Cologne, and also Paderborn. I'm sure that in the next years we're going to hear a lot more about quantum computing from Jülich, which is going to communicate gradually what practical advantages that brings to the citizens. I would like to say thank you to all of you who have been working for so long on this technology. We're very proud of your results, and we're very proud of this new research basis, and I'm really excited and looking forward to the development in the next years. Thank you.
Vielen Dank, Herr Ministerpräsident.
Thank you, State Premier. Walter Scheel used to be German Foreign Minister, and together with the Minister for Trade of Canada, they drafted an agreement on collaboration on science and technology. More than 1,000 research projects have been initiated: nanotechnology, polar research, energy technology, among those fields, and now quantum technology is also part of it. Next, Stéphane Dion will speak about it. He's the former Canadian Foreign Minister, and since 2017 he's the Canadian Ambassador in Berlin.
Sehr geehrter Professor Dr. Marquardt, sehr geehrte Ministerin Stark-Watzinger, dear EU Commissioner Gabriel, sehr geehrter Ministerpräsident Wüst, dear Dr. Alan Baratz, ladies and gentlemen, meine Damen und Herren, chers amis du Canada. It is a great honor for me to address an audience made up of some of the main architects of the next quantum revolution. Yes, as you all know, we are on the eve of a quantum technology revolution. The quantum properties of materials and, in turn, quantum computing open up countless new opportunities in areas as varied as manufacturing, healthcare, the environment, mobility, communication, transportation, navigation, defense, cybersecurity. There is virtually no limit to people's creativity when it comes to imagining new applications of quantum technologies capable of solving problems of process optimization and simulation out of reach for conventional computers. I am therefore very proud that Vancouver, Canada's own D-Wave is the world leader in the development of supply of quantum computing systems, software and services, and is the world's first commercial supplier of quantum computers. Supported by D-Wave, academics, businesses, and developers alike have been designing and building quantum applications in all the areas I just mentioned and more. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me as Canada's ambassador to Germany that to host its first LEAP quantum system outside of North America, D-Wave chose the Forschungszentrum Jülich Supercomputing Centre. This partnership makes so much sense. On the one hand, Forschungszentrum Jülich is an established leader in its use of supercomputers, big data, and artificial intelligence in all its research. On the other hand, we have D-Wave and its world-leading quantum computer systems and services. It is only natural to combine D-Wave's groundbreaking technology with the savoir-faire, the know-how and expertise of Forschungszentrum Jülich to support state-of-the-art R&D going forward. This is yet another excellent example of the long-standing and enormously successful Canadian-German partnership in science, technology, and innovation. As you may know, today's monumental event takes place precisely as we celebrate this year the 50th anniversary of the Agreement on Science and Technology between Canada and Germany. For 50 years, our two countries have supported more than 1,500 collaborative scientific projects across all areas of science, creating business opportunities and strong ties between firms, governments, universities, and students. Today's event sheds light on the tremendous opportunities to be found in quantum computing. Canada, which ranked first in per capita spending overall in quantum computing research, Canada has recently launched a $360 million national quantum strategy that will build on previous investments by bolstering support for this critical sector. Canada will continue to partner with Germany in what is projected to become a $1 trillion industry over the next 3 decades. As a matter of fact, the science and technology team in my embassy is devoting significant resources to fostering further Canadian and Germany cooperation in quantum technologies. For one, during Berlin Science Week in early November 2021, Canada hosted a virtual event on quantum technologies to highlight the potential for the sector and to provide an overview of the respective Canadian and German research and commercial landscapes. But second, the embassy will be bringing a cohort of Canadian companies in the quantum sector to Germany in May, with the hopes of further deepening our German and Canadian ties in this field. As I pass the floor now to D-Wave CEO Dr. Baratz, I want to thank you all for all what you are doing, your hard work, and for allowing me to participate to this very significant moment. Thank you very much. Vielen Dank. Merci du fond du cœur.
Stéphane Dion, Kanadas Botschafter in
Canadian ambassador to Germany, Stéphane Dion. D-Wave System from Canada is one of the pioneers in quantum computing, especially when it comes to quantum annealers. It's the first company that has offered this system, for example, in telecommunications or also in transportation. There are certain algorithms that can be calculated much faster compared to the use of supercomputers. Stéphane Dion already alluded to Dr. Alan Baratz. He's the CEO of D-Wave Systems, and he is now linked from Canada.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking Ambassador Dion for the terrific introduction. And thank you to everyone who is attending this important event today. To Professor Lambrecht and the team at the Jülich Supercomputing Centre, it's been a pleasure to work with your team. Jülich is the perfect location for the first annealing quantum computer located in Europe. The JUNIQ lab and the team here are innovators and leaders in supercomputing. This event marks 8 years of collaboration with Jülich. Minister Stark-Watzinger, Commissioner Gabriel, Minister President Wüst, and Ambassador Dion, thank you for your continued support. Together, we are expanding quantum computing in Europe. We believe that this system, the team at Jülich, and our European customers will unlock the development of quantum applications and cutting-edge quantum research across the continent. I also want to thank Gonzalo Gordazar, the CEO of CaixaBank, Dr. Michael Spinowski of Durham University, and Dr. Crystal Michelson and Dr. Thomas Lippert from Jülich for being with us today. Your innovative work on our system inspires others to imagine what this technology can do and makes it more tangible for everyone. As the CEO of D-Wave, it's exciting to see the engagement from across the European continent at this event. D-Wave's previous generation quantum computers were made available via the Leap Quantum Cloud service in Europe in 2019. And since then, we've seen a significant increase in demand for quantum computing from European customers, governments, and researchers. From research to commercial applications, customers are seeing the emerging benefits of quantum computing. As you'll hear more from Mr. Gordazar and Dr. Spinowski, practical quantum computing is ready today and can tackle public and private sector use cases. I'm honored to be part of this event. I want to personally thank the team at Jülich for all the effort it took to build this amazing space and for working so closely with our D-Wave team to get this system installed and ready for the announcement today. You can imagine it's no easy task to build a quantum computer, let alone during this dynamic time. And yet, we have together prevailed. We wanted all of Europe to have the best. I'm especially excited to announce that this quantum computer represents our latest and most advanced performance update of our 5,000 plus qubit Advantage quantum computers, updated just last fall. This makes the system at Jülich the most powerful quantum computer in the world. By placing the D-Wave Advantage system in Germany at Jülich, we demonstrate our commitment to helping European researchers, businesses, and governments develop practical quantum use cases. The upcoming launch ceremony signifies the importance of this moment. D-Wave's newest Advantage quantum computer is up and ready today in Europe and available via the Leap Quantum Cloud service. I'm looking forward to seeing the new research, applications, and innovations that will come from this first ever European annealing quantum computer. Thank you.
Vielen Dank, Dr. Baratz.
Thank you, Dr. Baratz. You will be later available to answer questions, and you will remain with us here in the live stream. But before we start our ceremony, I'd like to ask Bettina Stark-Watzinger, our minister, on the digital screen, and Professor Thomas Lippert, head of the Supercomputing Centre in Jülich. A warm welcome again to the three of you. Jennifer Houston is here representing D-Wave. A warm welcome to you. She's Chief Marketing Officer at D-Wave Systems. Now the big moment has come. I will soon start the countdown, and then on the panel everybody will press their own buzzers in front of you. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, this will be the photo op for you. We can't do it a second time. This is now up to you that you press your button at the right moment too. So get ready. So to make sure that we have a nice photo, please stand up, everybody on the panel. I'm sorry, but you need to keep your face masks up, but please stand up. Thank you. All right, are we ready for the countdown? 3, 2, 1, press.
Ja, und die Termine.
All right. Time is pressing at this point. We need to say goodbye to Mr. Wüst, our state premier. Thank you that you have been able to participate today and have a great day.
Auch vielen Dank an EU-Kommissarin.
I also wish to thank Commissioner Gabriel. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us here in Jülich. Have a great day. Thank you.
Und mein Dank gilt der
I also wish to thank our Federal Minister for Education and Research, Ms. Stark-Watzinger. She will also leave the session. Thank you for making time today. Goodbye.
Dr. Alan Barrett, CEO.
Dr. Alan Barrett, D-Wave CEO, thank you. But we will just say see you later, because for the Q&A session we will see you again on the screen. And now we'd like to come real-life applications to learn more about what is actually possible with the next generation. Conventional computers use 0 and 1, on and off, but quantum computers use supercompositions, meaning they can take every value. More than 5,000 qubits are linked on the D-Wave quantum computer. Those annealers are well equipped to find the optimal solution out of a large number of options. For example, when it comes to traffic routing. But this is not everything. There's, for example, also CaixaBank, one of Spain's leading private banks. And how CaixaBank is using this quantum computer will be explained by Gonzalo Gortázar, the CEO.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Very pleased to participate in this event. Indeed, quantum computing has been quite relevant for us for a while now. And I would say not just for us, but for many other financial service companies. Generally, any company that leads with sort of a lot of data and complexity is natural for quantum computing. Financial services in particular, we see applications in optimization of investment portfolios, risk, any financial parameter where we have, again, lots of data and complexity. Second, for the acceleration and the development of machine learning models, where clearly quantum has a big role to play. And finally, cryptography, where really in the not so distant future, all cryptography is going to have to be quantum-based. So very relevant factors. If you look at what we're seeing recently, last year we estimated quantum investments doubled in just 1 year. The number of dedicated research centers is approximately 160 centers that are focusing on precisely the quantum value chain, its software, hardware. We've seen obviously also many of the global technology companies significantly increasing their investment budgets in quantum. If you look at us and last year, I would like to highlight what I would say it's a very singular moment for us working with D-Wave. We are an example of complexity and data. We have 20 million clients, of which 5 have insurance positions, life insurance positions with us. We're the largest life insurer as well as the largest bank in Spain. And we need to perform calculations that are fairly complex, particularly on the insurance front, fairly complex and fairly frequent. With proof of concept we did this year or last year with D-Wave, we actually looking at the optimization of an investment portfolio. We actually achieve a 10% higher IRR, so return that was 10% higher than otherwise we get with our traditional models. And also we achieved it in 1/10 of the time, so got 90% reduction of the time spent. Again, very significant early results for us, of which we are obviously quite happy. We have no doubt that this is going to increase year after year, and I would say not necessarily on a linear basis, but even faster than that. And from that point of view, we're very keen to work with D-Wave, very appreciative of seeing this industry growing and maturing in Europe, and look forward to upping our investment, our efforts in quantum, which, as I said, is very transformational for our financial services industry, and certainly we see it that way here in CaixaBank.
Vielen Dank, Herr Gortasa, CEO.
Thank you, CEO of CaixaBank. When it comes to pioneers of quantum computing, there is also Professor David Di Vincenzo. 20 years ago, he formulated 5 main ideas about quantum computers bearing his name. David Di Vincenzo has been director of the Peter Grünberg Institute since 2011, and he's also scientific coordinator of the Jülich Quantum Computing Alliance.
Here's my amplification. Yes, thank you. I'm here just to say a few words about the current state of quantum computing research more broadly here at Forschungszentrum Jülich, and to really give a shout out to various people, many people who are working very energetically on it, on a very broad mission these days. Just a few words, though, about myself. Again, I came to Jülich now over 10 years ago, and I thought when I came here I was a real pioneer in quantum computing, and I thought that I would really start things off here. I came to the Solid State Physics Institute, but I found that I was not alone. I was not the first here at the Forschungszentrum. Cameraman, wake up here. The person who was really first, as far as I know, was this man, was Thomas Lippert. He was certainly the only one whom I met in my first visit to campus here, who was very deeply involved, was already engaged, this is 2009, was very engaged in the questions of quantum computing and in how we make it more reliable, but also how it would be integrated into the larger world of HPC, into the computing world. And that was so far ahead of anything that I was thinking of at that time. So over the years, we've coordinated our efforts, and in the early years, it was not so many. Of course, it was himself with Christel Michielsen and her team. We, at that time, worked within a structure called the Institute for Advanced Simulation, which carried forward many disparate agendas over the years. But in the last few years, we've really, first of all, built up enormously in quantum computing in many different aspects. And we have also built a new structure now that, within the last year or so, carries forward our quantum computing efforts here in a unified way. And that's within the Jülich Quantum Computing Alliance, JUCA for short. You would think that's one of these names that Thomas invented to describe some new computer. He did, in fact, invent this phrase, but it's for a more abstract thing. It's for really a construct for bringing together the work of, in fact, in this case, 7 different institutes. And I'd like to just mention some of the people who are all pulling in the direction of enhancing quantum computing and making it, a broader thing, and getting ready for the $1 trillion or euro or whatever future. They are in physics, in theoretical physics, Frank Wilhelm Mauch, and also Tommaso Calarco, who pull us very hard towards cutting-edge concepts for quantum computing. We also have very recently cutting-edge experimental efforts, now led by Rami Barans, who has come to us from the Google Quantum Computing Research Department, and we're expecting that he will be fielding many new kinds of high-performance quantum computers over time. We also have the involvement of systems engineers, the people who know how to put together all the stuff besides the quantum chip, and that's led by Stefan van Waasen in our Electronics Institute. And that's all teamed up with the Jülich Supercomputing Centre and the many scientists who are there. So that just summarizes the people and the kind of things that we're doing. I'd like to also finally belatedly congratulate Thomas. because he's taken a new chair, not leaving here, but he's a new chair at the Frankfurt University, and he's chair of modular supercomputing and quantum computing, which sounds like a beautiful mashup. And I wish him luck. If I could see him, well, I can look towards the camera and say, Thomas, good luck in mashing up and in putting these two huge themes together and bringing them into the future. So thank you. That's my presentation for today.
Vielen Dank, Professor De Vincenzo.
Thank you, Professor De Vincenzo.
Warum existiert diese Welt? Warum existiert
Why does this world exist? And why doesn't nothing exist? It sounds like a question for philosophy, but it is also a question for physicists. And that is a question for Dr. Spanowski at Durham University. And he deals with the question why there is more matter in the universe than antimatter. But it's also about the Higgs particle and gravitational waves. And he develops algorithms with his teams that can run on quantum computers, also the ones from D-wave systems. He is here today and gives us a short overview over his research.
Ja, vielen Dank, hochgeschätzte Teilnehmer dieser Veranstaltung. Es ist meine große Freude.
Thank you, participants. It is a great honor for me, a pleasure to participate in this exciting event. The Institute of Particle Physics Phenomenology at the University of Durham in the UK is the UK's National Centre for High Energy Physics and largest particle physics phenomenology group worldwide. Our research focuses on finding answers to some of the most comprehensive questions in nature. For example, what happens after the Big Bang? To answer such questions, we develop and utilize quantum algorithms in two different ways. On the one hand, we develop quantum machine learning methods to analyze and interpret the plethora of data gathered at the international large-scale experiments, such as the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. Experiments at the LHC generate 4 petabytes of highly complex data per year. Such amounts of data can be analyzed efficiently using quantum machine learning algorithms. The D-wave quantum computer is currently best suited to perform quantum optimization and classification tasks, which increases our sensitivity in searches for new particles or new forces. On the other hand, beyond data analysis, we try to recreate and simulate the dynamics right after the Big Bang, hoping to explain why there is more matter than antimatter in the universe. The most popular explanation involves violent processes imminently after the Big Bang, so-called phase transitions. You can think of this process similarly to the formation of bubbles when boiling water go to form from a liquid phase into the gaseous phase. Here, however, induced through quantum tunneling processes. Already in 1982, Richard Feynman, Nobel Prize winner and pioneer in the quantum field theory, stated that since nature is inherently quantum, we need a quantum computer to simulate its dynamics. He initiated a 40-year ongoing research effort by alluding to the fact that quantum systems realized in nature are so complex that only computers utilizing quantum dynamics are suited to simulate such systems faithfully. In our research, we were able to encode the physical conditions that might have existed in the early universe on a D-wave quantum annealer and use the quantum dynamics provided by the annealer to evolve this quantum system. We were able to simulate quantum tunneling processes that might have occurred shortly after the Big Bang. This shows that the D-wave quantum annealer can be used as a laboratory for quantum systems in a completely unprecedented way. Therefore, we are very excited about the JUNIQ project at the Forschungszentrum Jülich, particularly about the addition of a D-wave quantum annealer to its portfolio. The JUNIQ project will provide the quantum computing community with new resources and a forum for private and public sector entities to engage with each other, thereby accelerating the transfer of knowledge between the sectors. We wish JUNIQ every success, and we invite everyone interested in collaborating to reach out. Our quantum algorithms can be readily applied to real-world problems. Thank you so much.
Vielen Dank, Professor Schwanowski, für diesen Einblick in Ihre.
Thank you, Mr. Spanowski, for this insight in your research. We have seen already the quantum computer that is going into operation today. It's a big black box. It is a black box. And I think this is what it is for most of us. It is a black box, and we don't know what is happening inside. However, we have two experts telling us about this.
Professor Christel Michelsen hier vor Ort.
Professor Christel Michelsen, who is here, and Professor Thomas Lippert. They will introduce themselves and they will explain very important questions. For example, how do qubits learn to dance, and what is the secret behind this new name of the quantum computer, which is called JUPSI?
Dankeschön.
Thank you.
Ja, gerne stelle ich Sie vor.
Let me introduce Prof. Christel Michelsen. She is the head of Quantum Information Department at the Jülich Supercomputing Centre. She is a physicist, and she is also a world-renowned expert in quantum computing. And to my left, Professor Thomas Lippert, who is a physicist and computer scientist. He heads the Jülich Supercomputing Centre, and he is also the tamer of Jewels, which is currently the largest computer in Europe. So, Christel, the stork from D-Wave in Canada has brought us a cute baby. Why is it called JUPSI? U, I understand, that might stand for Jülich, but Psi, does this stand for parapsychology? Is this some psychic phenomena? Thomas, didn't you study physics too? You should know that Psi stands for Schrödinger's wave function. With the Schrödinger equation, we physicists describe what JUPSI does when it calculates. So this has nothing to do with parapsychology. It is physics with Schrödinger and its wave function of the description of reality? No, nothing. JUPSI stands for Jülich Pioneer for Spin Interference. The spins are the qubits in JUPSI. Aha. So JUPSI you see as a lady? Thomas is not just a lady, JUPSI is a princess. And I think even a princess on the P, because she is so sensitive. Yeah, I heard her bed is vibration free. Yeah, that's true. And as a princess, she also loves to dance. Dancing? Great, Christel. Dancing is good. Waltz, the cha-cha, tango. Great. You are so old-fashioned, Thomas. JUPSI doesn't dance those. JUPSI dances the iris step dance. Their qubits dance on the spot. On the spot? But I hope they're allowed to touch, are they? No. No touching, Thomas. JUPSI comes from D-Wave in British Columbia. The emphasis is on British. The dancers communicate purely through expression. So they give each other signs for the dance, and this is how they're coupled. But what's the name of the dance? It is called Kubo dance. Kubo stands for quadratic unconstrained binary optimization. In the end, the qubits come into an optimal configuration. And this is how they express the solution. Aha. But somehow we get started, right? We start with a formation like in the Irish step dance, but I don't see them. But they're lying down, right, on the floor without moving and into one direction. Thomas. They're not they're never standing to attention. If we look, they would be up, some would be down, but we cannot look.
Wenn man sie beobachtet, fühlen sie sich
Because
gestört.
once you observe them, they feel disrupted.
Der hier abläuft, der
So the
annealing
annealing
Prozess
process would be disrupted if we looked. Yes, we think that the qubits are secretly rotating around the z-axis, but we're not allowed to look at it, as I said. We really don't know.
Jetzt verstehe ich das.
Now I understand.
Tanzt heimlich.
Yupsi dances
Deswegen auch
secretly.
das
That's
Geheimnis von
why
Yupsi.
the secret of Yupsi.
Nun, wenn die die Z-Achse,
So if they dance
dann
around,
wird aus
rotate
dem
around the
Step-Dance also
z-axis, the
offensichtlich ein
step dance
Breakdance
becomes a break dance,
oder ein
or
Breakdance-Ballett.
a break dance ballet.
Irgendwie drücken dann die Qubits kollektiv
So somehow
etwas aus.
they
Das finde ich
collectively express something. I think that's great. Yes, and that is called superposition. All possibilities are done at the same time, and that is the secret of Yupsi.
klasse. Aha. Wenn ich das recht
Aha.
verstehe,
So if I
kann man dann
understand it
sagen,
right,
die
can you say
Tänzerinnen
that
können
the
zunächst
dancers
alles Denkbare
can
ausdrücken
do-
gleichzeitig
can
und
express
dann
anything
geht es
that
irgendwie weiter. Sie
is
sind
conceivable,
verbunden
and then it
und
somehow
verschränkt, oder wie man
goes
gerne sagt,
continues,
entangled
and
an
then
dieser
they're
Stelle.
untangled.
Ist das die richtige
At
Vorstellung?
this point, is this, do I imagine this right? Yes, somehow like this. However, they can never get hot. Otherwise, they take the wrong direction and never find the solution.
Ja, aber es muss
Well,
ihnen
but
doch extrem
they
heiß sein.
should be
Wenn man hier
hot
zuschaut,
dancing
so
this
wie die
way. I
tanzen,
mean, look at it.
Da werden die doch warm und
They're
schwitzen.
definitely going to get warm and start sweating. No, the qubits are super cool. They only feel comfortable when they're close to an absolute zero, close to 10 millikelvin, because there is no
Und das
thermal
alles
interference.
macht dieser
And
futuristische
all of this is done by this futuristic black box with the pretty
Ich würde
orange
sagen,
writing.
Das ist modernste Technologie.
I'd say this is most modern technology.
Es erinnert auch an
However,
die Qubits etwas an
I'm
einen
somehow
Abakus,
reminded
nur mit Stäbchen.
of an abacus.
Einen Abakus, wie es zur Zeit von
I
Adam Riese
mean,
ja noch
the ones that
benutzt
were
worden ist.
common during the times of Adam Riese. Yeah, but now the choreography comes into play, and that is the program that runs on the Yupsi.
Aber das jetzt sieht aus wie
That
eine
actually
moderne
looks
Ausdrucksweise.
more like modern
offenbar
contemporary
irgendwie
dance
weiterentwickelt
that somehow
aus dem vorherigen
further
System.
develops from the rotating that we saw earlier. Yes, the couplings are ramped up, and then they match the given parameters of the problem.
Aha. Also jede
I
Tänzerin
see.
weiß immer
Every
genau, wo
dancer
es lang
knows more and more exactly where to go and how to act and react to the other dancers.
geht. Dann
And when the
drückt man
dance
das Ergebnis.
stops, that expresses the result. Yes, but the whole thing has to happen very carefully. Otherwise, the qubits get too excited.
Als Physiker kenne ich das
Of
natürlich.
course, I know that
Das
as a
nennt man
physicist.
adiabatisch.
You call
Die
this
Entropie muss
adiabatic.
konstant bleiben.
It has to be a constant entropy, right? Good, very well, Thomas. You were paying
Und am Ende sehen wir die
attention
Spins dann aber nur nach
at
oben und
university.
unten zeigen.
But at the end, we only see the pins pointing up and down. This pattern then is the solution to the problem.
Aus dem Muster kann man dann,
Aha, so this pattern shows
was man gerne wissen wollte von dem
what
Problem.
we wanted to know.
Aber warum
But
nennen wir das Rechnen? Kann man das
Why do we
wirklich
call this calculating? Is this something that you could call calculating? What else would be calculating? You ask for something,
Ja, aber
you give a
das soll
task,
dann
and you
viel
receive a
schneller sein
solution.
als mit unseren
And this is supposed to be
Supercomputern.
so much faster
Warum
than our
das denn?
supercomputers? I don't understand why. Quantum computers can solve some questions much faster than supercomputers, and even solve problems that we are not yet daring to ask. It's because of the quantum parallelism. the superposition of states. That actually makes me a little worried about our beautiful supercomputers. Does that mean that we won't need them anymore? No, no. Don't worry about that. They are going to work very closely together. This is what we call modular supercomputing, as you can see here. So JUNIQ is the quantum department of the Jülich Supercomputing Centre. That's true. And I can tell you, supercomputing and quantum computing together will have a golden future. I mean, that sounds rather easy, right? But I imagine this is extremely difficult. Or have all of you understood what you just heard? Maybe for older scientists, it is a little difficult. But look at these three boys here. They weren't older than 16 when they solved a chess problem with a D-wave machine. So, that's the formula with which they solved the problem? And that was manageable by those 16-year-olds? They received actually an award at Jugend forscht, which is youth researchers, for the solution. Yes, and they're from the Regensburger Domspatzen High School and worked with our group. That is very interesting. But are there any real-world applications too? All of these problems here are solved on a D-wave system. For example, work task planning or railway schedule optimization and traffic flows, etc. Well, I mean, looking at, for example, the railways and optimization, that seems to be a real big problem. Is a machine able to do that? And will it be better once it's bigger? Yes, we can say that with UPSI, it's a performance leap from 2,000 to 5,000 qubits, and this continues. So that makes me make you a compliment, because it is very fascinating how this affects so many challenges in our society. Yes, and I think that we're all looking forward to having less trains that are delayed here, right? Oh yeah, for sure. Dear guests, I hope you enjoyed the dance of the qubits. And thank you, Christel, so much for your patience with me. Thomas, it was a pleasure. And I hope it was a pleasure for you too. Thank you so much.
Ja, vielen Dank, Frau Michielsen.
Thank you, Ms. Michielsen, Mr. Lippert. Now you have the opportunity to ask questions, and our panelists can answer. Mr. Lippert will stay with us online, and again, Michael Spanowski from Durham University and Alan Barrett's D-Wave CEO. Ladies and gentlemen of the press following the live stream, feel free to use our chat function at jülich-quantum.de. Are there any questions here on site?
Wenn nicht, dann schauen wir, was es online gibt.
If this is not the case, let's look online. Here's a question to Mr. Lippert or Ms. Mielchens. How was the cooperation started between D-Wave and the Forschungszentrum Jülich? Thomas, can you answer the question, please? I will start by answering the question and then you take over, okay? So, how did we get started?
auch international uns bewegen mit dem Supercomputing.
We work on an international stage when it comes to supercomputing, and we heard about D-Wave and quantum computing in 2007. If I recall correctly, it was at a conference, maybe in Reno. And that was the first time we spoke. And we kept in touch, we followed the developments at D-Wave. Then Crystal joined us in 2009, and she worked on practical use cases of quantum computing. And I believe it was in 2014 when we decided the time had come to look for a machine of this kind. We had been following the different developments of different quantum computers, and then I think we were also lucky. We met leading scientists at D-Wave. Bo Ewald, we used to know him because he was the director of Silicon Graphics. And yeah, so the first exchange was started and we spoke about our intention to implement this technology. Crystal, over to you. So you'd like to know more about the experience you need to enter this field, right? Okay, I can speak about this. So, well, what do you need to know? First, computer simulations, quantum theory, of course. You need to know what quantum theory is, and many people say it's impossible or difficult. I would say it's difficult, but nothing is impossible. That's my opinion. And if you combine these two and you know a lot about high performance computers, then you have made the first step. And it's not only about fundamental research, it's also important to be open-minded and to think about possible applications. Thank you very much. The next question is addressed to all panelists. COVID-19, climate change, the energy crisis. What can the quantum computer system in Jülich do to master these challenges?
Herr Dr. Barretts vielleicht?
Dr. Barretts.
Sure. Well, look, it can even be in support of mundane applications. For example, a Canadian grocery chain, Save On Foods, came to us in the height of the pandemic because what they found was that one portion of their business operations had become extremely complex as a result of the pandemic, and it was taking them up to 25 hours per location per week to compute the solution to this particular problem. At that point in time, we were giving away free access to our quantum computer for anybody working on a COVID-related problem. And so they approached us and we agreed to work with them. And in a short 2 months later, we were able to solve that problem for them in less than 2 minutes per location per month. So from 25 hours down to 2 minutes per location per month. And that's, just an operational problem that became extremely complex as a result of the pandemic. Another example, a small company working on peptide design called Menton. They basically have used our system to design new peptides that are currently being used in animal trials for COVID therapeutics. And so there's a broad array of different types of applications that can be supported by the D-Wave annealing quantum computer across a variety of different industries, certainly in support of the pandemic, but going certainly beyond that as well.
Herr Spanowski, wie sehen Sie das? Sie kommen ja eher aus der Grundlagenforschung.
Mr. Spinowski, what's your take on this, coming from fundamental research? Yes, there are big questions in everyday life. Everybody's talking about these too. I completely agree with Mr. Barretts. So the main focus is on optimization tasks. And in this field, quantum computing is very helpful. Simulations, as has been said, for example, atoms and bonding of atoms that help to develop new APIs, chemical compounds, and so on. So using optimization exercises is very useful. Then in the short video, or when we followed the discussion between Professor Lippert and Professor Michielsen, we also heard about the questions in traffic and transportation. Whenever there's a question, how can I make this more efficient? How can I reduce costs? And this is always a good starting point, because you can use the D-Wave quantum annealer. It is well suited to solve optimization tasks, and I see this as a very good field where you can use the new system.
Dr. Barrett or Jennifer Houston. As a Canadian company, why was Europe so important for your first system outside of North America, and why was Jülich chosen for the site?
Alan, you want to answer, or do you want me to?
So I'm
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Jen, do you want to do it?
I sure. Can you all hear me? I don't know if is my mic. Okay, so we have, as we said earlier, we have an 8-year partnership with the Jülich Supercomputing Centre, and I think that was the backbone and basis. We heard from Professor Lippert and Professor Michielsen about how they bring their incredible expertise in supercomputing and in quantum together, and I think that the why Jülich is because, you know, as we heard from Minister Gabriel earlier, Commissioner Gabriel, it's the intersection of public and private. And so that commitment, we've made that together for the last 8 years. And I think that unlocks, that relationship. But also, why Europe? There are amazing things happening in Europe today. The innovation and the problems that are being solved from green tech all the way through to, solving problems in COVID, et cetera, are happening here. And so the system being here demonstrates the commitment of D-Wave to all the innovation that's happening in Europe. And so I think it's the combination of this incredible partnership in addition to the problems that are being solved right here on the continent.
Thank you. And here's a follow-up question. There has been much discussion around quantum computing, and it can solve real-world problems. However, you mentioned your system is already tackling problems today, and we have heard some examples of what the system is doing. Can you explain why the D-Wave system is different and why it is able to do what other systems cannot do?
Alan, I'll let you answer that one since I just did the last one.
Yep, sure. Happy to take that. So at D-Wave, we decided early on that we wanted to take a practical approach to quantum computing. And what I mean by that is an approach that would allow us to get quantum computers into the hands of developers, customers, users as quickly as possible so that we and they could learn from the use of those systems. And that's why we chose annealing quantum computing. There are 3 characteristics of annealing quantum computing that have allowed us to get to the point where we can solve real business applications today. First of all, annealing is far more scalable. In fact, we are now at 5,000 qubits, where everybody else that has pursued the gate model approach to quantum computing is on the order of 50 qubits. Secondly, annealing is much less sensitive to noise and errors. It still is sensitive to noise and errors, but less sensitive in the sense that we're able to compute optimal or very good solutions to problems without the need for error correction. And finally, as you heard from Dr. Spinowski, annealing is extremely good at solving optimization problems. In fact, it's natively an optimization engine, and optimization represents many of the important hard problems that businesses and governments need to solve. And so for those 3 reasons, we selected annealing, and it played out quite well for us because we're now at over 5,000 qubits. We have many Global 2000 customers that are working with us on real applications. GlaxoSmithKline is working with us on codon mapping and RNA folding. You heard from Mr. Gordazar on CaixaBank and the work that they're doing. BBVA has done some work on portfolio optimization. Volkswagen is using our system for manufacturing optimization and scheduling the painting of vehicles. E.ON in the energy sector. PayPal is working with our system on a machine learning application for fraud detection. And so, the list goes on. And it's because we selected annealing, because annealing is more scalable, less sensitive to errors, and really good at solving optimization problems.
Thank you. Und wir haben Zeit noch für eine Frage an Herrn Lippert.
There's time for one more question addressed to Mr. Lippert. What can the quantum computer in Jülich do in order to help Germany and Europe to take a pioneer position in this field? This is a very important question. We believe that it is important to provide early access to users. We do this in all fields of computing. Think of the exascale computer. Currently, we are in the application process. Nevertheless, we have already started to prepare our users. And I think the same holds true for quantum computing. You can never start early enough to address users and to offer them quantum computing options. The leading technology that is used is D-Wave's annealing approach. And I believe it is indispensable to have such a machine in Germany, in Europe, and to provide access to European users so that they can focus on this technology, that they can develop algorithms, that they can play and experiment with it. And maybe let me come back for a moment where we spoke about the relevant problems that could be solved. I believe we don't yet know relevant problems. Only if we have the technology available can we solve these problems. It's not enough just to go around and do a survey. It is important to be brave, to risk something, to provide access to new technologies, and we are an infrastructure provider in this way. So we are on the right track. So this means that working on JUNIQ will never cease. The next steps will be to introduce a quantum simulator that will also be integrated in the software of the Jülich Supercomputing Centre. The work continues, but today's event draws to a close. Let me thank all experts and all guests on site and online. Thank you for your interest, thank you for listening and your attention, and I say goodbye. Have a great day.